to export, to begin with, the language. With the language comes the economic influence and all the rest. From the 16th century onwards, the language was taken to the Americas, you see over there the map, to the Spanish East Indies, through the colonization, the Spanish colonization, and became the principal language of politics, of art in most of Europe. Only later on, the Spanish influence was actually substituted by the influence of French. And now let's begin with the real call of the frontier. You see there this map that represents actually the Bering Strait. That is to say, this peculiar place where Asia and America touch almost each other, and in the winter time they are united because it freezes in the middle so that people can pass from one side to the other. As a matter of fact, 20,000 years ago, America was populated only by crowds of animals. There were no people in this continent. And but the adventure of the frontier, the call of the frontier, was about to start. As a matter of fact, a group of Asians coming from the region that can be identified roughly with Mongolia, who were actually following, they were hunters, they were following reindeers. Actually, they got to the Bering Strait, and when they got there, instead of stopping there, they continued following the reindeers, and they came all the way down into the Americas. They were the first men that actually heard the call of the American frontier. And in the millennia that followed, the descendants, the people who descended from these first hunters, Asian hunters, became an entirely new human race, that is to say, the American Indians. Now, towards the year 1000 AD, the Indians who lived not on the Pacific coast, but on the Atlantic coast, had actually the possibility of witnessing their first invasion. That is to say, they saw the longships of the Vikings, among these the famous Leif Eriksons, who actually 500 years before Christopher Columbus landed in North America with the Vikings. And what is unbelievable is actually that all traces of this Viking invasions were lost. It is almost like if the Vikings were swallowed by the continent and that nothing remained to witness, actually, to provide evidence of this first invasion of the Europeans, white people coming from Europe. And also Christopher Columbus actually came to America by chance, because he actually believed in the fact that the earth was round, and he thought that traveling, going west, you'd get to the Indies, from where came the precious spices that in Europe liked so much. He didn't know, of course, that in between there was another continent, America, and actually he came here by chance. Not by chance, instead came the conquistadores, here with the Cortés and Pizarro, who actually, with their gunshots, turned into dust the so-called pre-Columbian civilizations of South America, the Aztec and the Incas. Cortés and Pizarro had also imitators in North America, and the Spaniards attacked the pueblos built by the Indians. They ransacked the temples. They massacred actually the Indians because of their strong faith, because let's not forget that when they got here, they brought also with them always priests and monks and the cross. They also built solid missions, and so that they started also with the Christianization of the Indians. We see here very famous on the slide King of Spain, Philip V, that actually became emperor, and he had the control of the so-called New Spain. And New Spain included all the territories that were here in North, Central, and Southern America. These possessions that he had were so enormous that he was very proud to say that in his reign, the sun never set, because he had possessions in Europe, he had possession in America, he had possession in Asia, everywhere. And his conquistadores, Cortés, Pizarro, caused in only a decade the fall of the two empires of the Aztec, of the Indian empires, of the Aztec and Indians. Then there was the exceptional achievement of Magellan, that is to say the complete circumnavigation of the globe in 1522, that actually gave to the Emperor Charles V, Holy, he put together again actually the Roman Empire, but with the level of the Holy, because of course Spaniards were always great followers of the Catholic faith and of the Pope. And this a great achievement, the expansion of the empire, this great achievement of circumnavigation, gave to the Emperor Charles I the impression that maybe he had a mission from God. And in 1550, he convened a conference at Valladolid, in which, since there was also this problem of moral entity, that is to say, Catholicism, the Christian faith, was exported by actually by the conquistadores with the strength, with violence. And so in this conference, actually, he tried to put everything in order, and he actually said that this influence, also of religious type, had to be considered actually as not as something that was carried out with force, but as something that came from God, and so there was something positive in it. Now, we see that the Spanish governor of Florida, Hernando de Soto, you see there the old map of Florida, one day asked a Pueblo Indian, because we don't have to forget that the main spring, one of the main reasons for the Spaniards to go everywhere was to find actually treasures to bring back home to Spain. So one of the first things that actually De Soto asked to this Pueblo Indian was, have you ever seen gold? And this Indian very candidly answered, yes, I have, on your arm. Because actually, De Soto had this beautiful armor with gold. But De Soto didn't believe it. Actually, he thought that the Indians had the great treasure that they were hidden somewhere, and they, of course, they didn't want to tell. So, De Soto started immediately to go around in order to find these great treasures. And so he kept wandering for years in the desert, in the forest. But unfortunately, in Northern America, there were not hidden the great treasures that instead the Aztec and the Incas had hidden down south. And De Soto instead kept going, and it was actually the first white man, here we see the importance of the Spaniards, to go towards, in doing this, he was actually the first white man to go towards the American Far West. And he reached the Mississippi. And that was the first to reach the Mississippi. Unfortunately, he died in 1542. He was the victim of fever and also probably of his disappointment. And his men, at night time, dumped his body in the river. They did not want the Indians to know that he had died, because if they had found out that the white gods could die, actually